I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District Governing Board. Today is November 20th, 2012, and the time is 5:08. Please, let's have roll call, beginning with
Eric Meyer.
Jennifer Peterson.
Pam Kirby.
Denny Brown.
and Bonnie Sneed. And we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. At this time, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, that's 5-0. And Dr. Peterson, if you could start with the student and staff recognition and celebrations.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Our first celebration this evening, I'd like to ask Mrs. Carla Partridge to come up and share with us a brief presentation regarding the Parent Marketing Committee that she's been spearheading.
Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board members, David and Marty. Tonight, we wanted to introduce to you our Scottsdale Unified School District Parent Marketing Committee. And to my right is Marianne McCallan, who is a parent of students at Pueblo, Mojave, and Saguaro. And then I would like to, who is also my co-chair for the committee. And then I would like to ask the members of our audience that are involved with our Parent Marketing Committee to please stand and be recognized. Thank you. These are our ambassadors. We have a very large group. Some could not be with us tonight, but I just wanted you to know that some of our group has joined us this evening. And we wanted to share with you a little bit about what we do. And I can do the rest. Yeah, thank you. Whoops. Can you do that for me? Okay. Now it's not working. We'll go. Sorry, having technical difficulty. That one. Okay. So the purpose of our committee, as you can see, our mission is to communicate, inform, and promote, and just to do kind of an additional method of getting out the accurate message to our parents and stakeholders. We do align with our strategic goal 1, which is to improve the public awareness and foster our relationships with our community, and also for volunteerism and community pride.
Our committee organization is a representative or a lead ambassador for every learning community, and that trickles down to an ambassador at every single school. So everyone has the opportunity to disseminate information from the school district down to the schools, as well as the principals, using the ambassadors for flow of information to the parents. The lead ambassadors also go out into the community to inform on specific topics that they have learned from other professionals that have come in and spoke to us at our monthly meetings. As you can see on the chart right here, that explains and shows you the representatives from every single school and every learning community.
The purpose for us creating this committee was to develop an additional informal way for us to communicate and have that, as Marianne was saying, that free flow of communications. It's really a grassroots effort. It's taking these parents and students and some of our staff and getting that accurate information which we learn at our meetings, not only from what's been through the fence talk that people are hearing, but also from what we hear from our administrators who come in and share information so that we have accurate information to share with throughout our learning communities, and help to really educate our community to know what's happening in our district, what are some of the new things, some things that might be a little more complicated and more difficult to understand, like the ADE or labels, grades, aims, things like that. All of those things are very important for our community to know. Common Core. So this is kind of a new method for us, and we have a lot of very enthusiastic parents and students and staff helping us to do this. We do have some experts on this committee. We do have lots of professionals that have been in the marketing world, who have been writers. We have some people who have been lawyers and public relations, media people. So we really have people who have been real hungry to help us. You know, we've talked about this in many ways. One of the things I mentioned earlier in the work study was how they're supporting us with the Parent University project and doing those tables and getting information about each learning community. So already we're starting to really grow and work within the community to help get the information out.
At our meetings, like Carla mentioned, we're seeking information that the parents have asked from us. And along with disseminating the information, it also helps when you have more, so to speak, ambassadors, soldiers out there in the field to get that message out. And so we had Dr. Forlis come speak with us. We had Dr. McNeil about the Common Core standards, about the changes in the state testing. That information is really important to our parents, and they want to hear that, and they want to hear it from other parents, and that helps with the effort, that they know the information that they're getting from the schools as well as the parents is accurate. The job descriptions, like Carla mentioned earlier, a lot of the people in our marketing committee have a professional background, and they sought to be members of the committee because of that. We have public relations, people with expertise in education, diplomacy. We want to make sure that we use all of these areas to get the message out in a correct manner, not just throwing it out there, but making sure that it's followed through the proper channels and that people receive it.
So we thought it would be important that we continue to measure it, and we will work with our schools to determine if we feel that accurate information is getting through to the parents and into the committee from our staff, out through our parents and through our principals in an accurate way. And we thank you, the governing board, because you have challenged us to continue to think outside of the box, and we feel like this was one of the ways that we could do that, and we appreciate that input from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carla and Marianne. Next, we have Dr. Melissa Sackos, and Mayor Manros is here regarding our own Scottsdale Foundation.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, Marty. I'm also going to invite Price Nowski up to the podium, as well as Mary Manros. Price is a new member to the SUSD Foundation, and we're very happy to have him and glad they can both be here tonight as we share with you some of their very early contributions to SUSD to support our programs. As many of you know, we have had our Quest for Excellence grants now this is our 5th year. The foundation has now funded over $200,000 for the Quest for Excellence mini grant program that allows for teachers to implement innovative, creative teaching strategies and opportunities for their students in all of our schools. Applications are now coming in, due at the end of the month, but we're very excited again to get a contribution this year totaling $30,000, and again over the last 5 years over $200,000 from the foundation. Our collective capacity initiative that we're now in our second year has been funded by the foundation in the amount of $25,000. Our collective capacity initiative involves all SUSD learning communities working together to develop innovative plans and programming needed within that learning community to support SUSD's instructional goals as well as the learning community's goals as well. And we're very pleased that, again, we have an early contribution of those monies to continue the work within our learning communities. Many of you know our National Board Certification Program has put SUSD on the map in terms of the number of National Board certified teachers in the state of Arizona and nationally. We're very proud of that. The foundation now has funded 3 years in a row monies to help support the professional development and the preparation and testing for National Board certification. And from the research, we know what a direct impact that has on academic achievement, and we're very proud of that. The foundation has recently gifted $10,000 to the National Board Certification for Teachers, and over the last 3 years, we're looking at over $20,000 donated for our teachers to pursue this highest level of certification that a teacher can aspire to. For the first time this year, we are expanding and with the foundation support, our National Board certification for principals. And this is, again, one of the highest honors certification that a principal can aspire to. And will require a similar application and preparation program. And so we're very pleased to be one of the first districts in Arizona to begin to pursue this opportunity for our principals. And with the foundation's help of an initial amount of $10,000, we are getting ready to identify and support some of our principals going into the National Board Certification Program for principals. And again, we know the impact that the NBC certification has with teachers on academic achievement, and we know that that'll be the same impact having instructional leaders on our campuses make that instrumental impact on student achievement as well. So with that, again, Mayor Manross is here. She is our chairwoman of the SUSD Foundation, and Price Nowski, and I would like to thank you publicly and allow you to share a few words.
Thank you, Melissa. On behalf of Price, right here with me, a member of our board also. By the way, folks here don't know about our board. You can get on the website to see the names and see who the folks are, but all I can tell you is they're the most terrific people in this community, everyone that's on our board. And they are only on our foundation board because they really have a passion for the children, for education, and for our community. That's the only reason that we are doing this as a foundation. So if you have a chance to see them or meet them, or you don't yet know them and you see them around the community, please do, well, not tell them thank you, but tell them hello and introduce yourself to them, because we're working for all of you and all the folks behind me right here. Thank you, Melissa, for the presentation and continual awareness about what we're trying to do. I think the last time I was here, I did say that I know still the dollars are small coming from our foundation, but every single dollar is meant to make a positive impact. And we are working, Price can tell you that we're working diligently right now to on some more projects to find ways to raise dollars for the school district, because we're so keenly aware of the needs of the district. And we also are keenly aware of the fact that the best teachers will create the best district and the best educated students. And so that's why we support the teachers. That's why we support the principals and all the administrators, because this is the way that our children are going to learn. This is going to bring success for all of our young people in the future. I'm just honored to be able to be here and say thank you to, I'm not used to standing with all these folks behind me. I feel like I really have bad manners. But all of you back there, I want to tell you thank you very much for all you do every day for all of our children and for our community of Scottsdale and the Valley. it makes all the difference. Even on the days when you don't think it does, believe me, it does. So thank you very much. We'll keep doing our work and try to be able to increase the amount we can contribute to these really important efforts every year. That's our goal, that every year we'll get better at this. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And again, we want to extend a great thank you to Mayor Manross and Price for their service on the foundation. Many districts do not have foundations, and we're very fortunate that we do have one that recognizes the importance of education in our community. And I would let the foundation know, to me, $75,000 is a lot of money, and we're very, very happy that we're able to receive those funds because they make a difference in children's lives in the classroom every day. So thank you for your work there. Next, I'd like to invite up Dr. Dave McNeil and Dr. Mitch Von Echten. They are going to recognize 2 Rodell Exemplary Principal semifinalists. We have 2 of the finest here in our district.
At this point, have Mrs. Cerna and Mrs. Redner join us at the podium, please. Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Peterson and Marty, it's my pleasure tonight to recognize these incredible instructional leaders. Margaret Cerna, principal of Tavon Elementary School, and Cheryl Redner, principal of Supai Middle School, were named semifinalists in the Rodell Exemplary Principal Initiative. Based on proven leadership and an excellent record of high academic achievement, the Rodell Foundation is proud to count Ms. Cerna and Ms. Redner as 2 of Arizona's best educational leaders. Good luck and congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for nominating me.
Congratulations, both of you. We truly do have the best of the best, and we're proud of both Margaret and Cheryl for everything they're doing every single day on their campuses. Is Chad Cottle out there? Okay, Chad's there. We have Dr. McNeil and Chad Cottle are going to recognize now one of our best of the best teachers.
Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Peterson and Marty, I'm going to introduce Chad Cottle, the proud Rodell principal from Hohokam Elementary, to introduce his teacher.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Peterson, Marty. I am honored to be in front of you today. I think this is long overdue to recognize this teacher for the hard work. Erin Cadera is a 4-5 combo teacher this year at Hohokam Traditional School, and she has been named a 2013 Rodell Exemplary Teacher Finalist. So let's give her a hand for that first. Well, I have so much to say about her. I promise I'll make it quick, but yeah, I'll tell you why she's a finalist. She consistently demonstrates the highest student growth that there is, has the highest expectations for students that I have ever seen, along with such a nurturing environment. Best classroom management I've ever witnessed in my life. Most organized person I've ever met. She has such a role in our school and school leadership. Just real quick, she is a member of the site council. She's our yearbook coordinator. She is the director of our student leadership team. She's on the district technology committee. She's our technology committee chair at our school. She's a liaison committee member, our webmaster, and our teacher PTA liaison. That just says enough right there. And just to be honest, in my opinion, Erin would not be fortunate to be selected as a Rodell teacher, but rather Rodell and the aspiring teachers would be fortunate to have Erin mentor our upcoming teacher. So congratulations, Erin.
Erin, we hope you get some well-deserved rest over the Thanksgiving holiday. You've earned it. And I just want you to know everything you do makes me want to go back to elementary school, so I may be in your class next week. Next, I'd like to ask Dr. Sakos to come up and present a certificate to one of our outstanding psychologists.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson and Marty, we're on a roll. Our best administrators, teachers, and now one of our very best school psychologists, Dr. John Ballas. I'm going to ask you to come up. Dr. Ballas, there he is. Dr. Ballas is our Clinical Support Services Coordinator under our Safe and Supportive Schools grant. Prior to that, Dr. Ballas served as the school psychologist at Tonalea Elementary School. Last month, in October, at the Arizona Psychological Association National Conference, Dr. Ballas was awarded one of the most prestigious awards that a school psychologist could get, and that is the Early Career Psychologist Award. He was recognized for his contribution to the fields of education and psychology. Dr. Ballas has presented more than 25 papers on RTI, response to intervention, PBIS, and school mental health at the state and national conferences. Dr. Ballas serves with the IDEA National PBIS and School Mental Health Practice Group. He's a reviewer for psychology in schools and is a member of the faculty of both the Arizona State University and the University of Arizona. He serves on multiple committees in the Scottsdale School District, leads workshops and trainings on PBIS, RTI, and uses of data for decision making. And he is very active in our program evaluations and development implements research-based interventions. So now you have my secret on why the Student Services Department is so great. It's because of Dr. Ballas. So congratulations. I have a certificate for you, and we're happy to have you. Thanks.
Congratulations, John. You've truly earned it. He really is a calm in the storm when a lot of things are going on, and so we appreciate him for all of that. Finally, Dr. Andy Forlis has some certificates from the Mayor's Committee on Employment of People with Disabilities. Scottsdale Schools did great.
We are very proud. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, and Marty. It is my pleasure to introduce to you 5 employees who have been recognized. The following Scottsdale Unified School District employees were honored at the 26th Annual Scottsdale Mayor's Committee on Employment of People with Disabilities Award Ceremony held at the Chaparral Suites Resort on October 25th. I will introduce their names, and then you can all come up and get your certificate. Kay Albrecht is a high school teacher at Coronado High School. Joseph Mickey, Middle School Teacher of the Year from Supai Middle School. Robin Wynn, Early Childhood Teacher of the Year at the Troya campus. Carl McGarren, Employee of the Year, Pima Elementary Cafeteria Staff. Alicia McGovern, Exemplar of the Year from Chaparral High School. The committee conducts this annual award ceremony to thank those who provide counseling, education, and jobs for people with disabilities, as well as to thank those with individuals and disabilities who have given everyone in the community outstanding examples of courage, perseverance, and love in the face of adversity. Much congratulations to you. And Carl McGowan, thank you so much. And congratulations to you.
I want you to know that I'm thankful for this and grateful for being able to work for the school district and being at Pima and when I worked at Open.
And we could not be more proud to have you as part of the SUSD family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Carl. We love to see you over at Pima, so you're doing a great job over there. Finally, our last celebration this evening, I would like to invite up a colleague and a friend and somebody who works hard every single day to make sure that our buildings are running and the lights are on and the air conditioning's working, and also he's making a difference with kids out there. Mr. John Muir.
Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson, Marty. Oh, I'm going to put up my presentation. You're good. Nice move, though, by the way. Character is what you do when no one is looking. We're here to celebrate Dr. David Peterson. I serve on the Arizona ASBO board for facilities and operation. We recently hosted, ASBO International hosted in Phoenix their annual get-together. Dr. Peterson sponsored the Positive Impact Program. Basically what we did was we worked with St. Vincent de Paul's, and all these folks from ASBO International came down, and they wanted to redo a house. 2 houses, actually. Dr. Peterson wanted to do 3 houses and felt that we had the resources and the manpower to do that. So what I'm going to do is just briefly go through. This is one of the ASBO phrases that we had on our last conference last summer, and we truly believe that. This was one of the houses that we went to initially to kind of survey. This is the Hernandez family, and these are the steps that we took. This is the stuff before the makeover. And all of the folks that didn't come to the podium are all of the folks that you'll see through the pictures that were absolutely amazing. And my hat's off to people throughout the educational community. Paradise Valley showed up in force with their maintenance department. But basically, these are the befores and the afters. Volunteer Project Day. I know that dude. We call this young lad El Caballo. He was an amazing young lad that Joe, loved horses, and the folks from ASBO International really wanted to redo their room. Joe Arteca, Michelle Hamilton, who also serves on the board with me, she's with Mesa. Amazing. Joe's organizational skills and stuff, we couldn't have done it without him. This is just kind of standing joke at Building Services. This is where all the problems are really solved, is the back of the pickup truck. There's Mark and a lot of the folks that are out here. You know, one of the first step was just a safety hazard, and it's funny, my guys just really wanted to start from scratch. They were just so involved with this, and the professionalism from Building Services and so many other departments came out of the woodwork on this. Mr. McDonald, a lot of these folks that you're looking at have won the Golden Hammer Award that continue to give to Scottsdale. Bud Glass, I love Bud Glass. He's 82 years old, an amazing talent that actually worked with Dr. Peterson's son over the summer, and he continues just to give and give. Mr. Brett Holliday, Greg Skelton, who's in the audience, they all brought their skill sets. Scooter's in the audience, our plumber. This is Maureen and Lisa and Gabby from St. Vincent de Paul, who could herd 100 people and get them motivated. It was amazing. The cop showed up. That was mildly entertaining. So we had to talk to the police, and the guy was amazing. He said, you know, you're not going to have any problems with the city of Phoenix, and when are you going to do my house? So this is the reveal, basically, when the family walked in. And I never knew anything about Hello Kitty until this project. And now I know everything about Hello Kitty. And I was told I was doing it wrong because you have to go, Hello Kitty. Anyways, this young girl, the gentleman, my carpenters, rebuilt a wall to give her her own bedroom because she was living with Grandma and Grandpa. Yep. And there's the transformation. You know, Grandma and Grandpa have their own room now. And there's El Caballo's room. Cowboy up. And then Joe Arteca, again, who just continues to give. He was my senior facilities coordinator over at Saguaro, donated a bicycle to he just worked, and they were out there working together. So that was just a neat moment. And again, the group from Scottsdale Unified School District and ASBO International and Arizona ASBO. Basically, this is the girls, we named it. And my hat's off to the folks that went over there. And
I called it Estrogen Ocean, but they said.
I wasn't gonna say that, but I'm glad you did. Anyways, you know, Amber and our Director of Transportation, Bert, I was over at the Hernandez house, and they were the ones running the project over at Girls House. So, again, my hat's off to those folks. Scooter, in the house. You know, he's our journeyman plumber and always continues to give to this day. Anyways, again, we look at the transformation and the smiles and the, you know. And there's the gang. Well, this is where it really gets interesting because we wanted to pay it forward. My team did, and the people from special education, community schools, we sent it out. We recently lost Harvey James. He was my IGA person. He lost his homeowner's insurance because his lung capacity was so diminished. He couldn't, have homeowners insurance. So the guys all teamed up together, and again, we want to pay it forward. And we just got a good practice run on how to do it. So my hat's off to Patty Bilbrey, our Director of Nutritional Services, donated a beautiful antique bed to the widow. There's Harvey James there at one of our get-togethers in the carpenter shop. And again, just to kind of show you what we were up against. And again, there's Dee Dee, Harvey's widow. Again, Joe Orteca. Joe Baca's in the house. Brett Holliday, just a huge talent pool that we have at Building Services. The guy on the right didn't do too much, but Greg Skelton was amazing. Andy Bernard, technical trades. Greg McDonald, again, his skill sets and leadership in the carpentry department just continue to give. There was no actual paint eating at this event, but. And again, we're all by the truck again. Mr. Tom Barry, who's my supervisor for custodial. Jill, my dispatcher. Dave Collins, my supervisor for custodial, all were there. Carlos, my HVAC supervisor, was there. Alondra was our official photographer. This is Melissa Murray's kid. Most photographers don't make the pictures, so we wanted to get a shot in her. Dave Hochstrauser, our friends up in payroll and Samar were there. And again, now we go home back to the reveal. And again, giving back to our own community. So again, thank you, Dr. Peterson. And on behalf of ASBO International, and St. Vincent de Paul's, and the families, and the team building, and the ability for you to show us character, I thank you.
And governing board members, I just want to say that this would not be possible if we did not have the talent and the class act that we have in our building services, in our facilities, in our nutritional services, in our transportation. Our support workers care every single day about what happens, not only with our children, but with our community. Just one little story I'll share with you before we end here. We visited one of the homes, and John and I talked to the family. We talked to the kids, and I asked the one little girl. I said, because they were saying, well, I share a bed with my sister. I share a bed with mom and dad. And I asked the one little girl, where do you sleep? She looked at me and said, I sleep on the floor. I said, that will never happen again. We went out and got her a beautiful bed, because we can make a difference in just the little things that we take for granted. So, guys, you guys rock. Thank you for everything you're doing out there.
And I want to know where I sign up for next year. I'll be there. At this time on the agenda, we have time for public comments. And although this is a meeting of the governing board, we do allow public comment. And I just want to let people know that there's a 3-minute limit, and our vice president will give you indication when that 3 minutes is about up, and that personal attacks upon board members, staff personnel, or other persons in attendance or absent by individuals who address the board are not acceptable. Presenters are cautioned that statements or representations concerning others that convey an unjustly unfavorable impression may subject the presenter to civil action for defamation, and this is all just stuff that we read from off the back of the card. At this time, I'd like to call up Allison Herron, who would like to speak to us about funding for gifted education.
Good evening, President Sneed, members of the governing board, and Dr. Peterson. My name is Allison Herron, and I'm an active and engaged Redfield Elementary parent. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. As a parent supporter of the recent override measure that failed on the November ballot, I was dismayed, as I'm sure you all are, that the loss of funding opportunity for our schools. Recognizing that hard decisions will be necessary, I'm here tonight to urge your continued funding and support of gifted education throughout our district for the over 2,600 students that are supported by gifted programming in our district. I would particularly like to implore your continued support and funding of the comprehensive gifted program at Redfield, which has been a celebrated program within the district for close to a decade. My husband Brett and I are the parents of 2 students in the comprehensive gifted program at Redfield. We came to the program after our son came to us towards the end of his 2nd grade year saying he didn't want to go to school. It was unusual for him. He said when we asked that he wasn't learning anything new, and we weren't parents who said, you're smart, you're gifted, you should be challenged. We obviously made sure that was happening throughout his classroom, and his teacher was working at that also, but we were concerned with that comment because he was with a great teacher. That led us to tour self-contained programs throughout the area, and after leaving my tour at Redfield, I had tears down my face. I said, this is where he needs to be. We're going to have to move our family. It's an excellent program. So we did that. The Gifted Administration truly has created an excellent program for students like my sons that do have extraordinary academic needs and high intellectual potential. It's a place where they are engaged every day, challenged, and understood. As you can imagine, these students aren't gifted for an hour. They're gifted all day long. They have a different way of looking at things, processing information, and they're able to make connections and have interests that students their same age may not have at the same time. Redfield gives them an environment where they're with their peers and their needs are met all day, every day. I appreciate that the district and the board support gifted education in Scottsdale, and I realize that there will be weeks and potentially months of budget decision making ahead. I urge your continued support of full funding of gifted education throughout the district, and in particular for Redfield Comprehensive Gifted Program, as it is an imperative program serving numerous students with gifted special needs. Thank you so much for your time.
Dr. Peterson, superintendent's comments.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be brief since we've had quite a bit of great celebrations this evening. But in light of another celebration, I would just like to recognize our service learning students and Ms. Christine Irwin. They are currently delivering their 2nd evening of Thanksgiving dinners to needy families in our district. I had the very pleasure and honor of teaming up with a group of 4 students last night. We delivered meals to 5 families, and these were families that would not normally be getting Thanksgiving dinner. So it was very nice that they've been able to actually get the donations for the food and then actually deliver the dinners to the families and meet the families. So we want to just thank Chris Irwin for her organizational skills as she works with the service learning students. As you know, back several weeks ago, we were not successful in our election of either Prop 204 or the override. I can tell you that there's been a lot of discussion regarding the failure of Prop 204 and the expiration of the 1-cent sales tax in May of this coming year. The governor, the business community, and much of the legislature has agreed that schools will need some additional funding from the general fund. Currently, there's a $600 million in carry forward dollars that are available, but we will not know until January with the governor proposing her budget what that will look like for schools. So it's really too early to tell exactly the impact of the elimination of the sales tax. I can say, though, that we also were not successful with our renewal of our override, and due to that, we will see a budget impact of $4.4 million directly to the school district due to the initial first-year phase-out of our 10% M&O override. I want to be very, very clear to our public and to all of the community that we will continue full-day kindergarten. All-day kindergarten is funded by the K-3 override. That was separate than the 10% M&O override. So we still have 2 years of full funding for our all-day kindergarten program. We had a lot of folks that were confused our K-3 with our M&O override and felt that our all-day kindergarten would be eliminated in July. That will not happen because that was approved separately by the voters in a different election. So we are guaranteed for at least the next 2 years to have all-day kindergarten still funded. We think that's important. Hopefully the state will see that also. Just a couple last thoughts. The Kiva Elementary School next year will be proceeding as a K-5 elementary school. We did work with the community, and we had a deadline of November 1st and a requirement to receive 60 confirmations of students in order to consider having Kiva be a 7th grade as a K-8 type of program next year. We received, I believe, 22 or 23 commitments, far short of the 60. Based on that, we are moving forward with Kiva being in alignment with the rest of our elementary schools, that they will all be K-5 next year, and all of our middle schools will be 6th, 7th, and 8th grade middle schools next year. I would like to remind folks that we are coming to the end of the year. Tax credit is a way to help us fund some of our programs, and there is tax credit information on our website. You can support clubs. You could support the Unitown program that our high school students utilize so that they can get together and really share and work across all of the communities and all of the different learning communities and high schools that we have, also supporting a lot of our extracurricular and our sports teams. And then finally, I'm very proud to announce that the National Center for Education Achievement, it's a department of ACT, has recognized multiple schools within Scottsdale School District as making the 2012 NCEA Higher Performing Schools list. These schools are Cherokee Elementary School, Cochise Elementary School, Hopi Elementary School, Laguna Elementary School, Navajo Elementary School, Pima Elementary School, and Sequoia Elementary School. We're very happy to have 7 schools make that list of higher performing schools. They're identified by 2 measures. First is consistent improvement in student achievement from previous years, and then secondly, absolute student achievement as the students exceed in the results of the Arizona Ames test. So we have 7, all of our schools are incredible. 7 of them have just risen to the top above them, and we're very proud of all the work that's going on. Lastly, I would just like to wish all of our staff, our school board, and our community a very happy Thanksgiving. It's hard to believe that Thanksgiving is 2 days away. I'm still in denial over that, but it is 2 days away. So I wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving, that you'll take some time to reflect, to spend time with family, and to just look at the things that we truly need to be thankful in our country, because we have a lot of great things in this community to be thankful for. So thank you.
At this time, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. And item 10 on the agenda, information discussion items. 10A is revisions to the 2013-14 high school planning guide.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Mitch Von Echten is going to give us a short presentation regarding revisions to this next year's high school planning guide.
Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Peterson and Marty. It's my pleasure tonight to present the 2013-2014 High School Planning Guide for its first reading. In doing so, I want to first recognize the leadership and committee members. First of all, the leadership of Dr. Karen Benson, Director of Curriculum, and Joy Zeiler. Also in our audience tonight, we have several committee members, and if I could at this time ask them please to stand to be recognized. I know there's some of you out there. Your hard work and dedication is truly appreciated in this endeavor. Additionally, we had featured guest curriculum specialists, lead teachers, and other program directors that presented at these meetings. The committee began meeting August 20th and met for 8 weeks. Weekly meetings focused upon one or more content special areas. Recommendations for changes were presented by curriculum specialists, lead teachers, and district office personnel. Tonight, of course, November 20th, we have before you the first read of the High School Planning Guide for 2013-2014. We also presented to you the consent agenda item of which you just passed, and I will speak to a couple items on that shortly. Next month, December 18th, we will ask for your final approval of the High School Planning Guide, at which time by December 21st we will have common registration sheets out, complete revisions within Synergy, and we will post the High School Planning Guide electronically. Essentially, there was 3 goals and guiding principles in directing our work. First, goal number 1, further refinement of the High School Planning Guide, especially into the area of record-keeping guidelines. Goal number 2, consider new course proposals based on the following criteria. First, courses that are a necessity as a result of increased graduation requirements or in a response to state statutes. Those, of course, are the increases in the math requirement to 4 years. That speaks to the consent agenda item in which we included 2 e-learning classes that we asked for your immediate approval so we can meet the needs of our graduating seniors. Another guiding principle for new courses is courses that extend existing course sequences or further develop a flagship program in SUSD consistent with our SUSD strategic plan. I can speak to that in a moment. And lastly, courses that would allow opportunities for students to provide internship support for teachers. This speaks to an additional course in which we can help facilitate the science adoption, as our teachers will need additional help in the classrooms with a lot of the technology that's going to be implemented. Lastly, our third goal was to update the common registration sheets and courses in Synergy, and of course that's upcoming. Highlights to the 2013-2014 High School Planning Guide include a response to the 4-year math requirement. Integrated math and business math will be offered online and traditionally, and of course this is the consent agenda item that we asked for your immediate approval tonight, so we can take care of some of our kids this spring. ELD course titles and descriptions were also updated and as a part of the audit, and those were a part of the consent agenda item this evening. Looking to next year specifically, other changes would include a science tech internship course. This will help enhance our Math and Science Academy. World language course sequence additions, the expansion of Japanese, Russian, Mandarin, and of course this we did not expand the number of languages we offered, but further pursued course offering within existing languages. IB courses, 20th Century World History, Art Design, IB Dance. These are essentially changes in course name that would help articulate the IB certificate. This is not new additional courses that need to be staffed, but would be paired or coupled within existing classrooms. For instance, the IB dance student would register for that class, but be taking that course within the broader dance curriculum or class. Math and science courses, research methods has been added. This is a class we previously had within the High School Planning Guide. It has been banked, so to speak. This is another addition we've put in to help enhance the Math and Science Academy. And lastly, there's been additional e-learning electives. A significant change is a recommendation from the superintendent's leadership team. Effective for all SUSD students entering the 9th grade in the 2014-15 school year, that'd be this year's current 7th graders, students will be required to complete one virtual online or blended learning course experience prior to graduation. Exceptions through IEPs would be allowed. And with that, I would once again like to thank the committee for their hard work over the last couple months in preparing the high school planning guide, and if you have any questions.
Mrs. Peterson.
This was great. Thank you. All of you. Been absolutely outstanding. Thank you
you.
very much. I just have one quick question. At the very end, that every student entering in 2014 will have to complete one virtual online or blended learning course. What is the value of that, the benefit of that?
I think twofold. I think it's imperative for our college-bound graduates. They will encounter this form of instruction or this instructional delivery method sometime during their college experience. I think in a more broader sense, it's preparing our students for the future workforce. Our students are going to be needing to retool on a variety of occasions for how changes in the workforce and how they can be better prepared. I think this is another instructional delivery method that they're going to encounter in the workforce, and they're going to be best prepared for that.
Okay, and then I'm just curious on the flip side, and I'm sure we've gone over this before, how many in the actual school classes for a child to graduate from one of our schools, do most of their classes have to be absolutely within the building, besides the Scottsdale online learning?
If I understand your question, underclassmen have 6 classes per day.
Right.
4 of which those 6 must be brick and mortar.
Okay,
All
that's my
6
question.
of those classes must be taken on site.
Okay, all right.
Seniors, 4 classes. They can take up to 6 classes. 2 of those could be online classes off-site.
Okay, all right. I just worry about kids that are too much online. I mean, I think there's a potential for a whole creepy generation that doesn't know how to interact with another human
Well,
being,
and I think that's
so-
something that needs.
You know, they're just
I don't know
on
if
the
I want to speak to
computer.
that tonight, but
Right.
there's the opportunity too for the blended learning experience, and I think that's a piece we really need to highlight. The blended experience would be a brick and mortar, so to speak. I want to be careful with my phrases and terms here, but it would be a teacher in a classroom using the online curriculum to enhance their instruction. So
Right.
you'd still have that teacher component.
Right, I mean, I could see it like in a flipped classroom, let's say, where
Absolutely.
yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you, great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Oh, Dr. Meyer, did you have a question?
I did. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. I think after 8 years I'd know, but.
I'm back.
Just to follow up on, do we have any, the kids aren't required to take this online course from us, so there's a potential budgetary impact if we implement this. So if kids take it from, take online bowling, for instance, for their PE credit, we will lose that ADM. So I would just have the budgetary concern that if we have, and we talked about this down at the legislature, having kids take at least 2 online credits a year, which may help us as a district as other kids from the state take our online courses. So I just want to make sure that we don't, because right now we lose a quarter of an ADM if a kid takes a course outside of our district.
Correct, and I think we've mitigated that with the refinements we made to the record-keeping guidelines, in that students have to take the course with us if it's offered. So I don't know about online bowling. We offer online PE, so I would think that they would be directed to take that course.
But
And
they could, there's nothing that requires them to take that course at this point. If it's an elective course, they can take it anywhere.
They would be limited to electives.
But right, I agree, but we're saying they have to take 1 semester of a course, correct? So the concern would be if we have all of our, whatever it is, 4,000 kids taking, and we lose a quarter of an ADM at this point for all those kids, that could be a significant financial impact. So I just concerned about how it's implemented and how we protect ourselves financially as a district.
And I think going out, that's why we have a year to do this with fidelity.
And maybe we can change the law by funding mechanism.
And that would be nice. And to that point, by doing this, we might take the a typical student that wouldn't have an online class, that would take all of their classes and be forcing them to now take an online class and then reducing. This incentivizes them to take the online class and ends up hurting us
Right,
financially.
well, the bigger risk is that they take the irregular brick and mortar class, and then they take a summer school class online from somebody else, and we lose our quarter of an ADM.
Right.
And you do that times 1,000 kids, and you're talking a big chunk
And
of
Dr.
money.
Meyer, you're absolutely correct. That is a slight risk, but we also believe that because they are our teachers and we offer the courses, that we will be able to retain those students. That will be our goal, obviously. Also, we are looking at the staffing model for online classes, and based on the successes we've had, we are going to come back with a recommendation that our online teachers will have a little larger load than a normal brick and mortar classroom, so there will be some offset in savings there that should more than compensate for it.
Well, I mean, there's other opportunities. I mean, if we start teaching these classes like college classes where you have 100 kids in a class and they do a good part of it, the blended learning model where they come to a lecture, particularly our seniors in that fourth and
Right,
or
you can offset
fifth-
some costs.
Right, you can actually save money and increase. I just had one other question about the 2.0, because in what we approved in the online planning guide, there's that red bar at the bottom of the 6th page. But,
Looking at the actual planning.
Okay, sorry, I don't have that in front of me.
oh, yeah. Which is great, but I don't, as a parent, I just want to make sure that all the parents know this policy has changed, and when it comes to extracurricular eligibility, that this would be another good way to reinforce, and we don't need to make the changes now, but it would seem.
Excuse me, Dr. Meyer, you're referencing page 6?
Page 6, yeah,
Okay.
there's a red box at the bottom that says supporting students' learning on June 19th, 2012, unless we have different page 6s.
I think we may have different
Mine's
pages.
in red. Maybe it's not. Oh, maybe it's page 59. I have two
Okay,
page
let me
numbers
jump
on
up a
my-
few pages.
2.0 reference the. It's gonna be right here, it's right here.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it, it's not redlined. Sorry, red box, but not red line. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So is that the only place that have that in the planning? That's the only place I could find it in the planning guide. Or, because it's not under athletics, it just refers to the AIA stuff, and it's,
We could make a reference to the athletic guidelines also.
well, it's for all kids. So
True,
that
true.
they need intervention if they're not, and I just think it's great to highlight that.
Yes, that would be the only reference to the 2.0, so we could bring that
And I
out.
don't know how, I don't know what the thinking was on that, but and if it's not in red it won't be red in the planning guide either, it's just like this little box down there. It would be good to educate, parents, I would hope, look at the planning guide, so I think it would be good to educate
So
them on
perhaps
this
in
change in policy.
the title, a more distinct reference to 2.0 policy.
Right, and that.
And I think it was left to the specifics of it to the student code of conduct was the idea behind there, and minimize the reference within the high school planning guide.
Oh, so there's another section when you sign your student code of conduct that's going to talk more about this?
Yeah, the
Is it-
details of it would be
Did I
with-
see that and miss it, or, no, okay. Okay, just so our parents know that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Well,
Thank
and I'm wondering whether it wouldn't be beneficial, sometimes with the new tax code, in the very beginning, they have a page that just say changes for this year. We might want to consider something
Sure.
like that.
Highlight changes to a document, absolutely.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Okay, the next information item is SunPower Solar Camp, student recognition and featured presentation.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'm very pleased to invite up Dr. Karen Benson to introduce the participants of the SunPower Solar Camp. During October break, while most of our students and our teachers were off for the week, we had a group of students and teachers that spent the week learning all about solar, photovoltaic, and renewable energies and what the potentials are to have a career down the road. So, Dr. Benson?
That's correct. Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson and Marty this evening. Over fall break, as Dr. Peterson just shared, we had, in partnership with SunPower Corporation, a couple of our Scottsdale teachers provided a week-long comprehensive solar science experience for 20 select students.
Dr. Benson, can I have you speak into the mic so that
trying.
it gets through to the recording? Sorry.
Battling just a bit of a sore throat. Apologize. So we had 20 select students from Saguaro and Coronado campuses participate and attend over fall break. At this time, I'd like to recognize, just for a moment, the two SUSD coordinators that allowed this to happen, Janie Kaufman and Chris Brandt, for their tireless, many, many hours they put in. Could you please stand? And we have two superstar lead teachers that helped coordinate this and facilitated the week of learning as well. Erica Mills and Susan Lindberg, would you please stand as well? And finally, as our celebrations were significant as we started this evening, we have one more celebration as an information item tonight. At this time, I'd like to invite the student team that was selected to present the culminating presentation to show as evidence of some of the student learning that happened during the fall break learning opportunities. So at this time, would my four students come to the podium? They will be introducing themselves during the presentation for you. It's a short presentation, just under 10 minutes, but part of the opportunity and partnership with SunPower was the agreement that we would allow students to showcase their learning in front of our governing board members as well. So students, do you know where your presentation is? Welcome. Oops. That's the wrong thing.
Right. So we are Galileo Systems, and we make energy revolve around the sun. I am Carlos Mora, the CEO of Galileo Systems.
I am Abraham Ramirez, the CFO.
I'm Taylor Clark, VP of Marketing and Sales.
And I'm Jessica Norman, VP of Engineering.
So Galileo Systems is a solar power company based in Arizona, which sells solar power systems. And when we talk about system, we mean the whole thing. Solar power, inverter, everything included. So the way solar power works is that as photons bombard the solar cells, you can see there, the blue panel, that knocks off and it reattaches electrons, and that creates your flow of electricity. So that flow of electricity gets passed through wires down into your inverter, which the electricity gets converted into either AC or DC current, and then that goes back into your home, and you have your energy.
So why solar power? Well, I bet you didn't know that enough sunlight falls on the earth every hour to meet our world's energy demand for an entire year. Also, using solar does not release the pollutants that other sources of energy, such as gasoline and coal, produce. Using solar will decrease utility payments. The government also provides tax credits for using solar energy, and most power companies also give benefits for using solar energy.
So, SUSD goes solar. The Scottsdale Unified School District used the Qualified School Conservation Bond to join forces with a third party, such as a bank, to install solar panels on our schools. Now, this actually was a great bargain because we actually saved a total savings of $48.8 million, and the savings still go up. This is a long-lasting deal, so again, great bargain.
So the goals and objectives of our project was we picked a house, and our goal was to decrease our clients' monthly and overall power bill and assist them in lessening their carbon footprint. We also wanted to not only provide our equipment like solar technology, we also wanted to increase their knowledge of solar technology and innovative energy and make sure they understand what is happening at their house. To reside in the home when their power bill is $300 per month. The house has a 180-degree azimuth, the roof angle is 34 degrees, We chose this site also because it has minimal obstructions such as trees or cactuses or anything that's going to cause shadows to cast on the solar panels and decrease their activity. And it also faces south.
So the proposed system array was a 6.7 kilowatt system. That's 6,000 kilowatts. Oh no, 6,000 watts, my mistake. And the inverter is an SPR 500 inverter. Now that's what converts your power, and that will be placed within the home in order to protect it from the heat, because once temperatures reach over 108 degrees, it just completely kills the inverter and it cannot function at that point.
And our final system, this final system cost was $20,700, but with the rebates from SRP, it would total to $3,035. The tax credits would be $6,200, and the price after all these incentives would be $11,400. The system would pay for itself after 12 years, and the system is 92% effective. It would offset almost 11,000 pounds of carbon dioxide each year.
Just our works cited page.
So again, why solar panels? Solar panels are actually one of the main advantages in Arizona because, let's face it, we get a lot of sun here. But again, it is more eco-friendly, safer, cheaper, more productive, and just plain more basic compared to other energy sources, such as fossil fuels, coal and gas. The burning of fossil fuels releases greenhouse gases, unlike solar panels, and also a good amount of CO2. Now, solar panels, obviously, by not releasing enough of these, not any amount of them, will make our Earth very beautiful.
So we just want to take our time to share how our solar camp that we participated impacted our lives. And solar camp personally has taught me how my living style impacts the earth. We did a project where we figured out if everybody in the world lived the way that we did, how many earths we'd use up. And it was just amazing to think that if everybody lived the way I did, we'd use almost 5 earths. And we only have one, so we have to protect the one that we have. And so I also learned how I can decrease my carbon footprint, and with the help of solutions such as solar power and other innovative technologies for energy. And I learned lessons on cleaner living that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life.
My grandfather tried to promote solar panels 20 years ago, which it wasn't cost effective then, but now it is. And he passed away a long time ago. So I did this camp to kind of remember him, but also to increase my knowledge of solar technology and how to improve my lifestyle personally. And I learned so much with this camp, and I'm so grateful to all of the teachers that ran it and everything.
Through this camp, I have to say it was a lot of fun. I gained a lot of new friends. I learned more than just the basics of how photovoltaics work. I also gained business and team management skills. We all did, as we all worked together on this project. And I have to say it was great working with each and every single one of them, and I want to thank everyone who helped with this program.
So before I went to this program, I was oblivious to all this energy and stuff. I thought the magic came from my dad's wallet. But at the end of this program, I just look at solar power and I think, wow, the world really does run on energy. I mean, everything I learned in this program was just so beneficial to me that I really understand this. And I know someday, later on, it's going to help me.
So during solar camp, we went on 3 different field trips. The first one, we went to Chaparral High School, and we went on the roof to look at their solar panels, which were not put on by sun power, but we looked at them anyway. The second one was to Star Technologies, which is in Glendale, and they test different solar power panels. I can't talk. Solar power panels for use in the military. And then our final field trip was to Local Motors, also in Glendale, which did not have any solar panels, but it had a cool car.
Solar, but it was all about engineering.
Yeah.
Through that.
At the Rally Fighter, probably the coolest car I've ever seen.
Oh, wow.
So we're Galileo
Systems,
and we believe
that
if
if the Earth revolves around the sun, so should our energy.
Thank you. Let's give them a.
Again, we would just like to thank our students and our teachers, sponsors, for making that happen and giving up their October break week. My only disappointment was I tried to get them to embed my quote to them when I presented to them during the week, and that was, "We live in the Persian Gulf of Sunshine." And I truly believe that, and it's the right thing to do. So they did, great learning went on that week.
The next information discussion item is 10C, update on SUSD 2012-2013 math and reading pretest and benchmark data.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. McNeil and Dr. Von Echten are going to do a short presentation regarding our math and reading pretests and benchmark data.
Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson and Marty. Unfortunately, our presentation won't be as exciting as the last. Tough act to follow. We will be talking about a different Galileo system known as our benchmarking. So let's begin here. Like Dr. Peterson mentioned, we are presenting our pretest data for our pretest as well as our benchmark 2. Benchmarking in Scottsdale, as many of the schools across the valley, is not new. There are many reasons why we do benchmarking. One is a predictor to the Ames test, which we know is very, very important for our measure of growth among our kids, as well as accountability and labels. Two, teachers use benchmarking both as formative information to see how they performed in teaching a certain performance objective and the results from how the children did, as well as a summative to give an overall performance snapshot, if you will, of each specific performance objective. We'll start here with our district kindergarten reading pretest. You will notice in the PowerPoint that we only do pretest assessment in reading due to House Bill 2732, which is our Move On When Reading legislation. Starting next year, our third graders that are not meeting or exceeding the standard in reading will be in possibility of being held back. So it's important that in our kindergarten grades, we do benchmarking, pre-assessment, benchmarking, and post-assessment to ensure that we are moving in the right direction. As you can see from our first slide here, we're going to move from left to right. The blue bar is our fall far below, our red is our approaches, our green is our meets, and our purple is our average of exceeds. This mirrors exactly to the formula and the standard for the Ames test. Galileo, our system, aligns both kinder, first, and second as through the third through the 10th grade when it comes to meeting the standard and exceeding the standard. The blue bar, as you can see, is a combination of both the green and the purple. So we can see that 85.28% of our current kindergartners on the pretest, which was done the first 3 weeks of school, met or exceeded the standard. This is quite a celebration in that 85% of our students who are either 4 or 5 during the first 3 weeks of school on a computer met or exceeded the standard based on the performance objectives that were shown. As you can see, 12% approached the standard, as well as 2% fell far below. Many questions arise. Conversations are occurring at the school sites about these kiddos. Why did they not meet the standard? What are we doing with intervention? What kind of practices are we doing to ensure that all of our students are meeting or exceeding the standard? The next slide is our math pretest data that was done the first 3 weeks of school, following from left to right, grades 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can see above the math title, we roughly have close to 1,800 first graders, 1,800 second graders, close to 1,800 all the way across the board. That is the total population within the district. Again, moving from left to right, blue is FFB, red is approaches, green is meeting, and purple is exceeding. The light blue bar is a combination of meeting or exceeding the standard. As we can see with our math data here, there's one thing that jumps out. We have many students that are exceeding the standard compared to our meeting the standard. This is something to celebrate. Another thing to point out in looking at the pretest pretest data of all these kiddos is that if we looked at our math data when it comes to the Ames reports from last year, we will see roughly in these grade levels, although different kids, we'll see roughly the same percentage of students meeting or exceeding the standard. In other words, if we look at last year's third grade math results, what percent of the students in Scottsdale met or exceeded the standard? It's roughly 83%. The same for fourth grade, the same for fifth grade. Different kids, but we're seeing roughly the same numbers. Immediately, some people say, uh-oh, are we not getting better? And the question is, no, the test is not static. The test is continuing to get more difficult. As we're moving to the Common Core, text item difficulties are increasing. So you can't really compare one year to the next because the test is getting more difficult. So I think it's important that we point that out as we start comparing apples and oranges, and that's why Dr. Von Echten and I did not compare last year's to this year's. We just merely are presenting the data for this year. So roughly in our mathematics, you can roughly say 80% of our students are meeting or exceeding the standard in math based on the first 3 weeks of school. Also with the pretest, it's important that we know that half of the test is based on knowledge that has not been taught yet. That is what is going to be taught this school year. And half of the items are based on the previous year's instruction. So they're not supposed to do well because they haven't learned it yet. So it's important that we remember that about our pretest. And remember that the pretest is the evolution of Senate Bill 1040, and that's the shift that we made when we moved to our benchmarking. Within the district elementary reading pretest, again, first grade, moving across those same kiddos in first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, you can see that our meets or exceed bars going across are significantly higher. We're in the upper 80s and the low 90s in the fourth grade, but we're not seeing the comparison where in the math we're seeing that more kids were exceeding the standard. Here we're seeing more students meeting the standard and less kids exceeding the standard. This is common across the state as well. If we look at Ames data, we're seeing that students are struggling more with mathematics when exceeding, with reading and exceeding the standard. This is pretty common with our data that we're seeing more kids are exceeding the standard in math and less are exceeding the standard in reading. Again, a lot to celebrate on pretest data that was done the first 3 weeks of school, all on computers. A lot of questions come up. Do they know how to use the computer? They can't read a passage. They can't highlight it. So the old traditional techniques that we think about when reading a text and doing some highlighting that teachers teach in the class, now we put them on the computer and they can't do those things, so they're feeling that the students are at a disadvantage. Well, getting ready for the PARCC assessment, those are the challenges that we're going to face when we are actually doing assessments on the computers. So is our data completely accurate? I don't know. It is what it is, and we're moving forward getting ready for the PARCC assessment.
Well, similar to what Dr. McNeil presented, I'll present for you the middle school and high school pretest results. Reading the graph the same, the first bar, it's fame going from left to right of falls far below, approaches, meets, and exceeds. And of course, the bar to the far right is the passing mark of meets and exceeds. This is grades 6, 7, and 8 for math. Again, I think what we're seeing here is opportunity for student growth in that we want to move these kiddos from the meets the standard to exceeds the standard. District middle school reading scores. Very pleased that we're hitting the 90 percentiles, a little disconcerting with that 8th grade level, but of course this is only a pretest. Again, opportunity to move kids from meeting the standard to exceeding the standard. You would see the same kind of distribution that Dr. McNeil pointed out in grades K through 5. District high school pretest. This is reading, algebra, and geometry. So we have both reading and math scores here. Quite a bit of information with this one. Again, the number of students that took the exam each one, I forgot to point that out to you. But when we look at the reading scores, we're doing it in high schools, that's for sure. When we look at grades 9 and 10, 92% of our kids passing with a pretest. Algebra and geometry, we have some work, but again, that same phenomena, a significant number of kids who are exceeding the standard, not just meeting at this point. I'll pass this over to Dr. McNeil again.
And as we move to benchmark 2, that happened in mid-October at the elementary schools, pretty much mirrors what we saw in the pretest. Again, in our reading, we're seeing that we have high levels of students meeting the standard and quite not as much in the exceeding the standard. But again, from working from first grade to fifth grade across the board, we're in the upper 80s and low 90s. So again, is it the same test? No. On the pretest, it was half of the information from the previous curriculum and stuff that hasn't been taught to now a benchmark based on information that should have been taught based on a curriculum map, if you will, of what was supposed to be taught. So it is a summative report of how did we do? If I'm the classroom teacher, how did we do? Obviously, challenges come up with timing of benchmarks and did I get to that standard? Oh, I spent too much standard on this one, or I should have spent more standard on this. And as we see from our presentation from Data Central, from Kyle Ross, we will see, and Roni, we will see that we're giving the instrument and the tools to teachers so they can be more successful in making sure that our benchmarking is giving us a clear picture as possible. So again, high levels of meeting or exceeding the standard, lots to celebrate. In moving to mathematics, it's interesting that we see that we have, once again, more kiddos exceeding the standard in math. And you would think, wow, math is harder. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. It looks the same on the Ames statewide, and it looks the same in Scottsdale. We're seeing higher numbers. Before it was the upper 70s on the math pretest, and now we're seeing in the upper 80s. So we are seeing some significant growth when actually assessing what was taught during the first 7 weeks of the school year. So no surprises here, lots to celebrate. Again, looking at, schools, again, focusing on the FFB and the approaches kids to make sure that we're doing everything we can to meet and exceed the standard.
Middle school reading, a similar story. Benchmark 2 is a better correlation to how kids will do with the Ames results. And if you look at those passing marks of 89%, 91%, and 85%, those would mirror last year's Ames cohort scores. So our kids seem to be doing well on the reading piece. Again, the low numbers of those that exceed the standard, and I think, again, that's work for us to do in terms of that student growth indicator and an opportunity to move kids forward there. Middle school math, again, as a benchmark, this data meets and exceeds, mirrors that what we would see in the Ames results of last year. And again, the same story that the number of kids exceeding the standard in most circumstances, or at least in 2 of the 3, outnumbering those that have simply met the standard. So that, again, is information to look at. Keep in mind, this is aggregate data. It's at the school site, and it's in the classroom as we drill down, and as you will see in the next presentation, how we can drill down for that data. That's really going to be telling for our teachers and the work they need to do in terms of moving those kids along. High school kids have not tested or are in the process of benchmark number 2 right now, I should say. And so with that, that concludes our presentation, and we can take any questions you might have.
Mrs. Kirby.
Thank you for your presentation. At the elementary school level, for reading and math, how many hours of testing were invested in the pretest and the benchmark? One.
Okay. Repeat that one more time.
Just elementary kids.
Okay.
For reading and math,
Okay.
how many hours of testing for both tests, the pretest and the benchmark?
In a, let's say, a first grade classroom, for the pretest in reading, I would say 45 minutes, and for mathematics the same. And I would say with the benchmarking, closer to an hour.
Total or each?
Total for reading and for math. It would be roughly 1 period.
For both of them together, each?
Separate, I'm sorry.
Okay, so about 4 hours.
Right, and I would say, in thinking more about it now with the pretest, depending on, I would almost say that the pretest was probably a little bit quicker because a lot of the students didn't know that information. Thus I'm just going to click on anything. And it being online, that was a lot of the questions that teachers struggle with a technology-based computer test, because they're not actually writing out the answers, and maybe it's quicker to click rather than to solve something out. So roughly, I would say 4 hours total, 2 hours for reading and 2 hours for math to be generous.
So I want to make sure I heard you right. Okay. What I heard you say on the pretest is that the material is half from last year, half from the full year this year.
Correct.
Okay. And clarify for me on the benchmark. Just that represents what should have been taught to date?
Correct.
Okay. So
therefore, it's summative in nature, that it should be summing up of what was taught and give the teachers feedback about how did they do and how did their kids do compared to the teaching
Okay.
and the learning.
So for the kid, for the 80 to 90% of the elementary school kids who met or exceeded in both the pretest and the benchmark,
Correct.
where's the value of those 4 hours?
Right. That's a great question. I think as we drill down within each test, we can break down, as we'll see, by performance objective, which kids get it, which kids don't get it. I think it helps teachers be more strategic. If I gave my class this benchmark and you all met it, but by breaking it down, I can see that maybe in data analysis, none of you got it. So maybe I need to spend 2 more weeks or an extra day on it to be more strategic about how I'm pinpointing which performance objective. So even though I met the standard or you met the standard, didn't mean that you succeeded in every performance objective within the test. So I think there is value if the teachers are in fact using the data to drive their instruction.
So what you're saying is if in a given math, for example, if there's 10 performance objectives,
Sure.
and they met or exceeded in 9, but
Sure.
maybe there's one area that then that teacher could focus in on that
You're
one
exactly
area.
right.
Okay.
And just to remind everybody, within the Ames test, let's pick 4th grade math, 65% roughly was meeting the standard. So, and with our benchmarking, we're using a higher number, I think closer to 80%, and to make sure that that is our meeting. But there's 20% that we can still look at the numbers that didn't meet. So teachers need to be strategic. I know as a teaching and learning team that we're driving that home, and with the ability of creating our own data central, we're really pushing that, thus with the work that we're doing. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Brown?
I was just curious how much time is given to computer instruction before we're taking tests on the computer.
I think this is more of an elementary issue. That's a great question. And that's a question that is coming, I think, as we make our rounds through our office hours. Parents have concerns. We're being assessed, our students are being calculated or used as data, and do we really know they know how to use the computer? I know that is a focus as we're looking at specials and things to be strategic with the oncoming of Park. There is large conversations about what are we doing to teach computers? What are we doing to give them the skills so that our data will be a representation of what they know, not they don't know how to work the computer. So, Mr. Brown, I don't know. I know that schools are very aware of it, and I would say schools that are not getting the numbers that they're probably hoping to get are doing a little more investigation of, is this really what they know, the content, or is it really the tool?
I would almost say, too, that it's beyond the elementary because our demographic has changed, and it'd be nice if there was at least some rudimentary instruction given before a little guy's sitting laying his life on the line and everything is based on a test.
I agree 100%, and with the part coming in 2014-15, that's frightening. So I know that we're having conversations about how do we fit that within the instructional day. What are we doing in our computer labs? Are we making sure that we're giving them the tools necessary? And I apologize for making that an elementary thing. I know that I had to live with the kindergarten teachers because I get it. I mean, we plop them the first 3 weeks of school on a computer and say, here, take a test. And by the way, you're not going to know any of it. And they cry. And, are we assessing too much? What are we doing? And, are we getting them ready? But it's...
How do you sleep at night?
I don't know.
Mrs. Peterson, oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know if that's exclusively an elementary issue, but I mean, even at the middle school and high school level, we do have kids coming into our district that might not have the exposure to technology that we presume they have. For the most part, our kids by the middle school and high school level have been through this. They know the drill pretty well, and they're quite savvy, let alone the dexterity they have in handling a mouse and those kind of things, too.
Well, I'm actually more concerned about that 2% laying at the bottom. Was any of that related to, just skills?
Good question. Absolutely. And are they more focused on just trying to take the test as opposed to thinking their way through it?
Mrs. Peterson?
Thank you. Great presentation. Very much like what we were talking about before the board meeting, are we able to use any of this data to determine, I'll say with teachers, any opportunities perhaps, any mentoring that can be done to help their instruction?
You bet.
Okay. Well, that was quick.
And I think as we and I believe as Dr. Peterson added assessment to elementary schools and middle and secondary schools, I think it sends a clear message that if we're going to do all this assessment, we better make sure that it's valid and it's not a waste of time. The conversations we're having with our principals are, hey, here's your data, what are you doing with it? As you're creating school improvement plans, you better make sure that you're creating systems to make sure that we're accounting for the kiddos that are falling between the gaps, but we're also using it to help teachers be successful.
Well, right, because if we're seeing any patterns.
Sure.
In the pre-test of,
Sure.
gee, all these kids from this class didn't pass.
And as we get a presentation on Data Central, principals now have the ability to pull teachers by class and show how their kiddos did on the student growth percentile and how they compare to students like them across the state, and compare teacher A to teacher B, and teacher A might have a SGP average of 80 and the teacher B might have 50, and that has nothing to do with I have all the high kids, you have all the low kids. It's all kids at all levels competing against statewide. So there are going to be some, with the increased use of data and the tool that we have, conversations are starting to occur. I would say teachers that are perhaps struggling or maybe not at the top of their game might be a little worried because of the data might tell a picture. I think strong principals will use the data to make sure that they're giving the support to teachers, they're providing information so they can move forward and be the best teacher they can.
Well, and that's what I'm hoping, that it's more of a professional growth, a professional opportunity versus punitive. I mean, it's more,
I agree.
How are we doing here?
I agree.
Okay.
And let's remember, though, too, with Senate Bill 1040, that the growth from the pre to the post will be part of their evaluation. So although we don't want it to be punitive, it will be a third of their evaluation in some shape or form when it all shakes out. So interesting era that we're in.
Right, and I would just reiterate that this should be powerful data at the classroom level in terms of driving the conversations of our professional learning communities, that kind of embedded professional development where teachers can really share best practices and kind of remove that culture of teaching within silos, but sharing those best practices among themselves.
And I would also be curious long-term to see how this data, all the benchmark data, et cetera, marries up to the 2.0 data ultimately. I know we're 5 minutes into that whole thing, but that should be very interesting to see the overlap, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess we'll stay tuned.
Very interesting.
Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is an information discussion item, 10D, update on Synergy and Data Central.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Kyle Ross and Mr. Ronnie Asali are going to present two different areas that they've really been working on that I think combined will help close the gap on what we've been talking about of data and being able to understand where our students are and being able to help our students. So first, a great presentation on Synergy and then a follow-up on our Data Central program.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, Marty. It's my pleasure tonight to give you an update on the implementation of our new gradebook using the Synergy Education Platform. So I'd like to begin by giving you a refresher about what the Synergy platform is. It's a platform that we've been using for a number of years now, primarily as our student information system. So we've been using it to hold our student records, to create our master schedules, to schedule students into classes, to store their personal information, the parent contact information. We've used it for recording and reporting attendance and discipline. This year, we have gone with a district-wide release of the gradebook integrated with our student information system, which has also allowed us to decrease the variability that we have in the various report cards at our elementary level, and also it allows us to more easily conduct state reporting and accountability. So a big question is, why did we make this change? Why did we make this systemic change to integrate this new grade book? Well, the previous method that many of our teachers were using to record their grades, their daily grades, involved a multi-step process of using a separate grade book that was housed locally on their computer, and then through multi-steps later they would post their grades online for parents to see. And that wasn't always as fast as we would have liked it to have been. Our parents want faster access to that information. So by integrating our grade book with the student information system. It supports our strategic plan in a number of ways, areas 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, for increased communication, more personalized learning, technology improvements and integration, high standards and accountability, as well as school safety and student support. But mostly it's an improvement in reporting. So we do have this real-time communication now between the parents, the students, the administration, and the teachers. So basically now, when a teacher is keeping his or her grade book in the Synergy grade book, as soon as he or she enters a grade, enters an assignment, that information is immediately available to any of the other users who are logged into their view to see that real-time information. So as a parent, you don't have to wait as long to see an update on your kid's grade. So as soon as the teacher enters the grade, you'd be able to see it online right away. This also greatly helped us in our consolidation of report cards from many down to few at the elementary level. And it's another green opportunity for our district because it allows us to do things like report cards in an online format and decrease the amount of paper that we're using. And it's also an opportunity to integrate it with some of our other systems that my colleague, Mr. Sali, will talk a little bit about. But really, it's an opportunity for us to use the Synergy platform to touch all of our different user groups within the school district. And it's a way for us to manage our information and to get that information out to all of the different users. So within our user groups, we have teachers, administrators, parents, and students. And Synergy provides us a separate portal, a separate view for each of those user groups. So the teachers are using Synergy every day to not only take attendance, but they also have the access to the parent information to keep that communication open, as well as now keeping that daily grade book and doing their report card all online with a few clicks. Our administrators use Synergy and Admin View for a number of different functions. As I said, for creating the master schedule, scheduling students into classes, managing student information and contacting parents, checking on attendance, checking grades, and also doing things like following up with the 2.0 initiative, which really wouldn't be possible without the Synergy gradebook. Our parents are using Parent View to keep track of their students' grades and attendance, and the students are likewise able to log in and keep track of their grades in real time. Another advantage of now using the Synergy gradebook is that EduPoint, who is the creator of Synergy gradebook and the Synergy education platform, they have a number of mobile applications that work on Apple iOS devices as well as Android devices. So you have some screenshots at the bottom of your screen there of 3 different mobile apps for Admin View, Student View, and Parent View. And those are view-only apps, so those different user groups have access, real-time access anytime on a mobile device to student information. So administrators always have access to a student's schedule, a student's attendance, a student's grades, emergency contact information. All that administrator would need to do is to take a picture of the student's ID with their mobile device, and it would pull up their student profile. The students and the parents also with these mobile apps have access to the real-time information for student grades and attendance. The screenshot at the top is actually a screenshot from an iPad application called Teacher View, and this is a little bit more than just view-only access. With this application, any teachers who have iPads can not only take attendance mobilely throughout the room, but they can also enter grades, and it really expands what they can do in terms of grading by using that application. So the timeline for our implementation, we actually began this way in the past. As I said, we've had Synergy as a student information system for a number of years now, and we didn't do the grade book right away because we wanted to make sure that we had it down a little bit better. So in the spring, we did a pilot at 5 schools: Chaparral, Arcadia, Coronado, Desert Canyon Middle School, and Tonalea. It was a very successful pilot. We had teachers actually using the grade book to keep their daily grades and report to parents. Also in the spring and throughout the summer, we began having open lab training sessions at all of our complexes and learning communities to give teachers the opportunity to come and preview and play around with the early version of the grade book to get their feet wet with it. And then throughout the summer, we were offering training at every site. And this brought us into the fall of this year, where we went with full integration at every one of our schools, the grade book being available to all of our teachers. We offered continuous coaching and training every week, just about every day, every school, and that continues to this day. And then our next step is looking forward into the spring. We want to get the teachers using the calendar feature in Synergy more. So our focus in the fall has been getting the teachers comfortable with using the grade book to enter their daily grades, because it was a significant change. And now if we get them to change how they enter their assignments a little bit, that being entering assignments when they assign the assignment, not when they finish it. So traditionally, teachers don't put an assignment in their grade book until they're done grading it and they're ready to enter. If we train them to enter the assignment in the grade book when they assign it, as opposed to when they grade it, it would put that assignment onto a calendar that the students and the parents can see. And that would greatly eliminate the problem that we have at some of our sites with parents having to go to multiple places to find out information about what assignments are due. So that will be our goal for the spring semester, is to get our teachers trained on how to enter assignments ahead of time. So the way that we got all of this training done so far is for our parents and our students, we sent home, well, first we put assignment instructions in our back-to-school student information backpack that was available on our district webpage as well as every school's webpage, and it's still there now, with detailed instructions for parents about how to use the Parent View portal and access their students' grades. And we also sent home instructions to every family at the start of the school year, along with their individualized parent activation code that gives each parent individual access separate from their student to the Parent View portal. And then the students receive much of their training from within the classroom from the teacher. For the teachers, we've been offering training sessions at each campus. We've posted several training videos on our technology resources page. We've offered classes, open labs, individual support one-on-one with teachers in their classroom, and we have created designated Synergy Point people at each of the schools as well. So the Synergy Point people work along with a couple of other key areas within our school district. We call this a Synergy Support Team, which is made up of our instructional technology teaching and learning coaches, our 484 help desk staff, SIMAR, our student information management team, our technology and information services, and also some members of our curriculum department have assisted us in creating training videos and helping our teachers learn to integrate this system. At the site level, as I said, we have designated 1 to 2 Synergy Gradebook users at each site that are the champions on their campus, and they actually handle most of the help and the troubleshooting at their campus with their colleagues. And if there is an issue that comes up that they're not able to rectify or to help a colleague with, then they bring it up to the Synergy support team, and then we figure out who to best funnel it to, whether it's something that we need to do more training on or something that we need to bring in somebody from EduPoint. So from EduPoint, we have a fantastic trainer. His name is Jason, and he comes out once a month to meet with the Synergy support team and to keep us up to date and trained and answer any of our questions. And he also meets for an hour once a month with the elementary level site-based Synergy liaisons, and then he meets for an hour with the secondary liaisons as well to keep everybody, to answer everybody's questions and make sure everybody is doing what they should be. So in summation, this transition has not been without its difficulties, as any systemic change like this would be. Getting over 1,600 teachers to completely change the system that they've been using for a couple of years. But we are very pleased with the progress that we've made, and we are very excited for the new things that we will be able to do now that we have all of our student information housed under one platform. So with that, I'd love to answer any of your questions.
Mr. Brown.
This may be odd, but it's one thing to operate a system, and my question is anybody doing any instruction on time management with the teachers? Time is everything. Mm-hmm. And is anybody saying, if you want to organize your day, you should prioritize in this way, and this will help you if you are inputting at this point or whatever. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and not specifically, they're not doing that, but my team of trainers, what they're doing when they meet with teachers, a lot of it in the early days was initially calming them down. Because when they first looked at the new grade book, well, this looks completely different. But then showing them that the layout is just a little bit different, but it's actually, there are a lot of time-saving steps. So we've spent a lot of time showing the teachers those time-saving steps, features like autofill and things like that, that really, when teachers get past the initial shock and fear of something new, it's really, when you get down to it, this is a better system for our customers, for our students and our parents, and it ultimately is a time saver for the teachers. So up front, there probably was a lot of stress among the teachers about this is adding more time into my day, but in the long run, this is decreasing the time spent on these tasks.
It's appreciated that it's one-stop shopping. I mean, with our newfound appreciation of data, that entering in this system just gives data to everyone, including parents, teachers, administration.
And EduPoint actually makes improvements to their system very, very frequently. And when we bring things to them and say, well, we've heard from our teachers and this is something that they don't like, they actually keep a list of product improvements, and then they say, okay, you know what, that's a good idea. I'll take this back to our designers, and you know, they do over time make a lot of the changes that we ask for. Thank you.
Mrs. Kirby.
Thank you for your presentation. What % of our students have logged in at least one time into Student View?
I don't have access to that information at this time, but I can provide that for you.
That, as well as parents, I'd like to know how actively is this being used? And the only reason I'm asking is because I've also heard that this has become a source of anxiety for teachers. And before we take that next step of the calendars in the spring, it would be helpful, I think, and important to know, is our community, are our users, external users, caught up with us before we continue to plow ahead?
That's good advice.
And then it sounds like we're using a train-the-trainer approach. Is
Yes.
that how you would describe it?
I would.
Okay, and how many more years or months do we have contracted with EduPoint for support? Training support?
That would be a better question for Tom Clark, and unfortunately he's not with us tonight.
Okay.
But that's also something that I can find out.
Okay.
We do have several clock hours left with Jason, our trainer, this year. That's enough to take care of our needs for this school year, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Meyer.
So is it one-stop shopping? It's not quite yet.
It's not yet.
Because we still have School Fusion. Will that ultimately go away? And when the teachers are calendaring with Student View, then will the kids be able to click on the calendar on a link to that PowerPoint that they're supposed to watch with their teacher, and School Fusion will go away?
Well, EduPoint has a new feature, a new product that they're releasing actually next month, and I didn't put this in the presentation because it's only been previewed for us. We haven't tested anything out with it yet, but they do have a teacher web page that would really make it one-stop shopping, so that if we were to use this product, and again, I don't know that we will, but if a teacher is entering their assignments when she assigns that assignment, it would automatically update the teacher web page. So as a parent, when you went into Parent View, you'd have the teacher web page, you'd have the attendance, you'd have the grades, then you would have everything.
And you'd have the assignments.
Correct.
And the teachers also would have, if everybody's on the same calendar, access to see what's going on in other teachers' classes, potentially.
I don't know if it has that functionality, because again, it's only been briefly previewed for us, but it does sound promising, but we need some more time to test out those features.
So is the ultimate goal to get rid of School Fusion? I mean, or I don't know if they're vendors here, but
The ultimate goal would be to make the user experience as simple as possible.
Yeah, because still there's the issue of you go to School Fusion to figure out what your assignments are, and those links to PowerPoints or videos you're supposed to watch, and then you go to to student view or parent view to check out the grades and, you
Sure,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
We've heard that message loud and clear, and I agree with you. It would be much better if you had everything in one place.
Yeah. Okay. So that's something to follow up on, Denny, because it's not one-stop shopping, and you gotta.
Yeah,
I'm shopping at the wrong store. I've been going there all the time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. All right, let me get plugged in here. Okay. All right. Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson and Marty. And I'm here to talk to you about Data Central that everyone's been talking about. So pressure's on. Data Central there, what I really like about it, it's pretty sweet because everything is kind of in-house. So the first line there that says SUSD data warehouse, there's a few words that I think are really important. The first one is SUSD. So as teachers say, I want this kind of data, I want to look at benchmark, I want a graph that shows me how well my students are doing, we can actually go right behind that door, talk to Tony Hawari, and he can get it done within a week. So we don't have to talk to this guy who talks to his sister, who talks to his mom, and then 6 months later we're getting somewhere. So it's in-house, which is nice. And the data warehouse is awesome about it because as data becomes more and more important, sometimes there are several different websites, even if you have to go to the state to look at Ames data, where this just gives you the one-stop shop that we just got done talking about. But teachers are able to log in just using one username, one password, and they're able to access all sorts of data that includes the benchmark data that you just saw, Ames data, Stanford 10. We're also going to put in the IB data, AP data, and again, going back to being in-house, we're able to add everything in there. In terms of an organizational tool and data analysis tool, again, it's always being updated. I'm going to show you a quick example of how Data Central works. What I'll do also is have you, or send you the link that teachers have also gotten, which is a more comprehensive, slower paced video of more of the features. So I just wanted to show you a quick example tonight. But they're able to look at data from previous years. So if I'm looking at my 10th grade students, I'm able to look at their Stanford 10 grades from their 9th grade year, Ames from 8th grade, Ames from 7th grade, Ames from 6th grade, and even break it down by standard and concept to really see how they're progressing and where they should be when they reach my class and compared to benchmark. So that's a nice tool about it. Oh, there's that video. All right. So the purpose of Data Central, it aligns with Strategic Plan 2 and 5. The data guides the differentiated learning and the goals of the learning community. And again, it's really nice, meaningful, valid data. So when we look at, we're not just looking at Joe Schmo's test that he gave 3 years ago. It's literally the Ames data that has it broken down by standard and concept. So teachers are able to get together and say, well, here's how well my students did compared to the pre-test that they took this year and the benchmark test that they took this year. So here are the standards that they took in the pre-test. Here are the same standards on the actual benchmark 1. Where are they on that scale? Are there key students that I should be looking out for? Are there key standards that we should be looking out for? So that's what it allows them to do. The user groups, there's 3 user groups, and it's pretty much everyone. We have district administrators, the site-based administrators, and the teachers. And this is kind of where the example is going to come in a few slides. But with district administration, they're using a lot of this for program effectiveness. So you're able to run programs to see how well students are doing in terms of data, but you're also even able to differentiate if they are a gifted student, if they're an AVID student, if they're Title I, if they're an AP student or enrolled in IB. So you can really look, these gifted students, how well are they doing on benchmarks and Ames tests to make further decisions. From a site-based standpoint, they're able to do the same thing, but even as we talk about class sizes where it was reduced for algebra, the principal can go in, look at all the Algebra 1 benchmarks and say, you know what, based on these class sizes, how are these scored compared to last year? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Should we focus on something specific? To really bring all of this data that's kind of out there and make it meaningful to make better decisions. That's the nice part about it. In terms of teachers, data analysis is really what we're looking at. So it puts everything in a nice little chart, and we're literally working on it being a graph as well, so teachers can look at it and make sense without having them to be data experts and having them have their degrees in data. So it drives the PLC, as I mentioned before, and it allows them to look at various data from previous years. So here is the example of how it's implemented. This is an example of a screencast, which is what I've created, kind of a series of them, and they're online for students to view, or not students, for teachers to view through the district website. I'm going to give you two examples of how Data Central can be used to look at data. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. And the login is the same as a teacher's email login, which is nice, so they don't have to remember more information. Once you do log in, this is specifically designed for each teacher. So when I click on Customize Report, my access is obviously a little bit different, but each teacher will already have pre-filled in information up here. So their school will be put in there, their name, and their classes will be pulled in. So each teacher is only able to look at their own specific data. Let's go ahead and run two examples. As I mentioned earlier, the first example is going to be about the pre-test that was taken this year. So I'm just going to choose Arcadia High School, excuse me. 9th graders this year, it doesn't matter which teacher. I'm going to go ahead and cover up the last name and first name for keep students' identity anonymous. And let's go ahead and run, these are 9th graders, so they've taken Algebra 1, the pre-test. And I just want to take a look at their scores from a performance level. So if this was graded using the same scale that the Ames test uses, how many of them would have approached, how many would have exceeded, how many would have fell far below, or how many would have met. So when I display the data here, here's what it ends up showing. So as I scroll through, I'm able to see all the students, their pretest, and how well they did. Now the nice feature is when I click up here on the column heading, I'm able to actually sort them by the meets, falls far below, exceeds, and approaches. So it really just allows me to get a snapshot of how well everyone's doing and to keep an eye on everyone. So when I click back, let's look at different pieces of data. Let's say that I want to focus on the 9th graders again, but rather than looking at this year, I want to focus on last year's scores. So let's take this out of here. Now last year, these students took the Ames test, and I'm just going to keep the same content area of math, and I want to see how well they did on their FAME score, how many they got right out of how many possible, just to give me an idea. And let's go ahead and run the data. Here's the information that it gives me. Now I want to kind of sort this to take a look at what we're dealing with, but for an example, the meets, as I'm looking at the scores, I see how many they got right out of how many were possible. So this person got a 42 out of 68 and was classified as meeting the Ames test or the percentile. If I scroll down to the people that are approaching, what I notice is there's quite a few that are in the 40s. So there were quite a few students that were off by 2 questions correct, and then they would have been categorized in the meeting the Ames test. So that's kind of useful data you can look at. Another feature is where I'm able to select specific student data options. So if I keep the same exact information as I was looking at before, but this time I want to focus on specific students. So let's say that I want to look at the special ed students and I want to look at the gifted students to see how well they did. When I hit the generate report button, this is what it gives me. So I have 2 extra columns that one specifically is for special ed, the other is for gifted. Now if I click on special ed, what it will do is it'll actually sort them. So all the students that are special ed will be up here. If I click on gifted, it'll sort all the data based on the gifted students. So it really allows you to look at data from different lenses to try to make better decisions of how to improve instruction. So those are just a few examples of what it can do, and there are certainly many more that are coming up. Sweet. Okay, good. I'm glad it stopped right there. I wasn't sure. If you look at the student data option where I check special ed and gifted, the bottom column, and this is something that was just added in there where it says attendance. So teachers are actually able to look at Ames or benchmark data and look to see how many how many days that students actually missed. So it allows them to really pinpoint, is this an issue where we need to focus on a concept or a standard, or is this an issue where we need to reach out, make sure the kid's actually coming to school? So that's what's nice about it. One thing I also wanted to point out, when I ran the reports, it just showed the FAME scale. To the left of that was a column that actually had the student ID, and it could have been selected first name and last name. Obviously, we took it out for your presentation, but a teacher's only able to see their students and how well they did, so they're able to make better decisions. So the training part of it is the important part. So in terms of the support and training, there's been a few things that have been involved. One are screencasts, which I think are very helpful because at a teacher's own pace, they can click on it whenever they want to, and it just kind of gives them a visual run through of where to click, how to do things. And again, the one I showed you today was fairly short, but the one that was the first one for teachers that just deals with the basics, and you'll get that link, is really a step-by-step, play-by-play of how to access it and how to deal with it. There's also been leadership group training, so key teacher leaders from middle school, elementary school, high school have received trainings throughout, principals trainings at every level, and even during early releases, Data Central was an option for teachers to choose. Site visits, which I currently will be doing at some point, which is going to either staff meetings or department chair meetings and sharing Data Central to bring back, and also assigning point people. The really nice thing about this is it's not a statute where teachers have to get on Data Central every single day and do nothing like that. All it is just a tool. It's a resource that brings in all the data. So when they want to go look at this data to kind of plan ahead to make meaning out of what they're teaching, what their students know, what they want them to know, kind of that PLC model, it's just a resource there for them to use. And I know sometimes it seems like there's a lot of resources for them to use with different websites. So we thought it'd be a good idea to kind of have something like a little cheat sheet. So where teachers, rather than having a whole bunch of different websites, this is their Data Central Galileo cheat sheet, because sometimes they overlap. So if I'm a teacher and I want to know if I want to look at intervention alert reports, I can look at this real quickly and say, you know what, Galileo is the place for me to go. If I'm a teacher and I want to look at the multi-year data, Data Central would kind of be the go-to website. Things to look forward to in the future, more data. Again, it's in-house. And then the other nice thing is more user-friendly. So as teachers say, this title makes absolutely no sense to me, we're going back and saying, okay, well, what title makes sense? And then we're able to change it here. Questions?
Dr. Meyer.
Yes, sir.
So as the park assessment comes on board, this will all change, I would imagine, or it would just be added, so you'll be able.
I would say it would probably be added to it because it's important to just kind of have the back previous data to look at too.
And then, just watching you click through all the windows, do you have a plan to develop certain protocols for teachers of useful data to collect and how to implement using that data in the classroom? Because right now, just like you showed us, you can collect whatever
variety
data.
of it, right?
Yeah, you know, you had your, and I think they were two different groups. There wasn't gifted special ed kids. You had the two groups, you compared them to each other, and I don't know what you'd use that data for, but when the example before that, where you looked at the scores and you could
Right.
see your kids that were falling far below, but maybe only needed a point or two, and then strategies to identify those kids and then help those kids, because that obviously changes the grade at your, you know, the score that your school is given under the A, B, C, D, E, F system. So, you know, there's a lot there, as with all
Agreed.
data.
Yep.
And if you're just someone in the classroom trying to teach your kids and also learn this and all the other things, it might be good to develop strategies for teachers. And then, you know, you click on the button and it says, you know, instead of gifted or whatever, it says to improve your kids' reading scores, these are the kids you can work on within your classroom, and these are strategies to do
It's a
that.
very long named button, but
Yeah.
I think there's certainly going to be a plan. Now, is there a plan in place of like training teachers on which data to specifically look at? You know what I mean? Like, how can I look at this specific data? How can I make a plan for that data and then kind of work with the kids? There isn't one yet. I think that's something that we're going to be working on. At this point, the whole goal behind Data Central, just for this year, because obviously there have been a lot of things piled on, is just here it is, play around with the website for a little bit, and then as we actually look at data, because I mean, I'm excited to look at the benchmark 2, benchmark 3 post-test. You know what I mean? Like once we really have all of those in there, how can we now look at our full benchmark data? And how can teachers use that? Because that's going to be, I think, the most meaningful, because it's actually happening throughout the year instead of looking back. So a plan is coming.
Good.
Thank you.
And I mean, just as
I
you
know
were
where you're coming
talking,
from,
I
though.
was thinking, you know, so you know, now that your teacher conferences are with kids that are falling below the 2.0, you can pull up that data for those kids, and if I recall correctly, using Galileo, then you could develop a strategy for individual kids to improve their performance. So, you know, integrating the data, and then plus you're going to be collecting all the data on the 2.0 and the and the interventions, hopefully, that work and don't work, and tie all that together so that you can actually make it
Use it.
Exactly.
Right.
And use it easily. So.
And effectively. So that the 2.0 is definitely a key focus for this, because that's really kind of.
But even
all the
looking at the
strategies
prior
we're looking at this year.
presentation, and back to Pam's question, you know, when you looked at math, I think it was, just 20% of the kids were exceeding. It would be great if all the kids were exceeding. So
Absolutely.
you could identify strategies through this data to improve performance for all those kids.
Right, to bring everybody else up. You're right. Thank you.
And there
Mrs.
might be, and there might be, but there may just be one small problem that's being missed that the data will pick up on. So you could just be failing to teach the quadratic equation, and if every kid knew that, the next thing you know, the scores.
And that's something, I mean, especially when, as a teacher, when you go through and you're like, okay, here comes this lesson, and we just made it, you know, I mean, you can really pinpoint it and start looking at the actual, like, specific, oh, concept 3 was missed by everybody. We need to work on that. You're totally right.
Mrs. Kirby.
Thank you, Roni. Appreciate the presentation. If I am a teacher with access to Data Central and I have a report that I've figured out is very helpful to me that I want to use repeatedly, do I have the ability to save that report so that I don't have to recreate it every single time?
You do not have the ability to save the search, if that's
Okay.
what you're indicating.
Yeah.
Right now, when you run the report, you can export just that data, but you don't have the ability to actually save
To save the criteria.
You don't, not yet, no.
Okay. Having, at one point in my life, not as a teacher, but having used a system like this before,
Yeah.
that might be something that I think would come up on your wish list from teachers pretty quick. And the caution with that, though, is if you get a request from another teacher that says, hey, I like that, I want access to your report that you've created, that gets a little dicey because you might have a teacher who didn't quite create the report the same way the other teacher wanted to use that report. So it's almost a very personal search.
You're right, and data's powerful in a sense that it could, you know, I mean, it's very personal to people. I think if a feature like that was created, it would specifically be, hey, me, Roni, this is a search that I use all the time, so I save it so when I log in, that search option is only available for me. If another teacher likes it, great, they can recreate it on their own. You know what I mean?
So that
it's
they
kind of more
understand.
personalized.
Yeah, and I think with recreating it on your own, you really understand what you're asking for.
I agreed.
Okay, thank you.
A great point. Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is revision, 10E, revision of governing board policies.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Our last information discussion item this evening is about an hour-long presentation by Michelle Marshall regarding some of our board updates and for policies.
I happen to know that somebody has a daughter coming into town very soon, so. I'm sorry about that.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson and Marty. I love going last, so I will be brief. I provided you all with red lines of the policies that I have for you for a first read and explanation of what the ASPA advisories were on those. I just want to highlight one that you have before you this evening, which is policy GCO regarding evaluation of professional staff members. We're updating this policy to comply with the recent changes to Title 15. ARS 15537 indicates that the State Board of Education approve a model framework for teacher evaluations, which they've done. Requires student academic progress to account for at least 33% and up to 50% of the teacher evaluation. As a reminder, in December 2011 and June 2012, the board approved the design of the student achievement portion of the teacher evaluation system. Teachers will now be evaluated into one of 4 performance classifications: highly effective, effective, developing, or ineffective. Some additional highlights of what we're looking at with this new legislation is we need to adopt definitions of performance classifications aligned with the State Board of Education classifications. We need to look at incentives. We're permitted to provide incentives for teachers who are designated as highly effective, including the possibility of offering them multi-year contracts not to exceed 3 years. All teachers will receive 1 evaluation per year, and that evaluation must be based on at least 2 observations that are the first and final of which are at least 60 calendar days apart. The statute 539D requires that in consultation with teachers, we'll develop a definition of inadequate classroom performance. We have an existing teacher committee, and they have been doing a lot of work, and they will continue to do that work. Their next meeting is in February, where they will talk about aligning the definitions of inadequate classroom performance and the 4 categories with the State Board of Education's guidelines, as well as work on what incentives do we want to provide for teachers who achieve that highly effective rating. That committee will bring back a recommendation to the board at the May 14th, 2013 board meeting. The statute requires that the board approve something prior to the beginning of the 13-14, sorry, I always have to remind myself, 13-14 school year, so that May meeting will be the last opportunity for us to bring that to you. And with that, we'll take any questions. Pam may be jumping up. None? That was easy.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Madam
Whatever.
President, just one last thing. I just want to remind everyone and the people that are still listening or will be listening as they do this, that on December 1st, we will be having our first annual Parent University. It's going to be at Coronado High School, and we are looking forward to that Saturday of great classes and topics and discussions for our parents regarding some relevant classes and information for them to help them be great parents and support their students. So our community schools folks have put a lot of work into that, and we are continuing to advertise that activity, and we will just want to remind everyone that Parent University is December 1st.
That's at Coronado High School. Future action? I would like to, I'd like the board to consider and give me some guidance on whether or not they would allow me to put this on as an action item, as to whether they would consider a proclamation in opposition to sequestration at the federal level. If we send out the information, what it means, would you be willing to vote on whether or not you want to support a proclamation that would go to ASBA and NSBA and then be forwarded in December? That's why I'm asking if it would be okay. Not tonight. If it could be included on the next agenda item and have the board vote as to whether or not they would support a proclamation.
I'm happy to consider it.
Okay.
That's all you're
Yeah,
asking.
that's
yeah.
all I'm asking. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Governing board report, any other future action? Governing board reports? Okay, the dates of our upcoming meetings. On December 18th, we have a 2 o'clock executive session, 3 o'clock study session, 4 o'clock swearing in of new board members, and reception for new and departing board members.
Question with the next board meeting, but future action all at the same time. I know at the December executive session is when we do our 6-month touch base with David. Could we possibly get, was there anything written, like a letter, anything from 6 months ago or a year ago, like goals, objectives, anything like that?
Yes, I'll be sending that out to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And then at 5 o'clock will be the regular governing board meeting. Again, that's on December 18th. Then in January, on the 15th, at 2 o'clock, there'll be a study session, and at 3 o'clock, the regular governing board meeting. And at this time, I'd like to move that we adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, and happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
What is that?